po sa supply ng asam na umaabot ng
Severe Weather Bulletin
kilometers.
18.
Patuloy pa rin pong umalaw kasi ng ating
Update
bagyo.
sa bagyong Ulysses mula kay
Bagyo sa nagpapakasukutan.
Let us find out more about the extent of damage brought about by Ulysses. We now talk to National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council spokesperson, Mr. Zikeya Omaya. Zikeya, good morning. Thank you for taking our call. Firstly, how many families and individuals have been evacuated from their homes because of this typhoon?
Miss Rheanne, good morning. Here at the NDRRMC, we're able to get information that the total affected population is more or less 25,031 people, and 273 barangay in Regions 2, Calabarzon, in Marapa, and the Cordillera. 245 evacuation center has been used on more than 14,000 people has been staying in the evacuation centers. In these various locations, at the National Capital Region, we have received a report that those who have been evacuated in the coastal areas has started to return to their houses. In the communities that are still waiting for the figures of those people who are staying in the evacuation center, I have detailed here upon our current rescue operations. We already have 363 rescue teams that the national government supporting the local rescue efforts of our local government units. As of this morning's report, we have received information from our rescue teams on the Armed Forces of the Philippines that they were able to rescue or evacuate a total of 6,309 people from the different communities here in Metro Manila, as well as in the neighboring provinces that have experienced severe flooding. The Philippine Coast Guard has deployed more or less 70 teams to be able to do rescue operations in the different localities, specifically there in Marikina City, as well as the Rizal town in Rodriguez and in San Mateo.
Alright, Zikeya, let's talk about the numbers here. Are there updated reports of fatalities and missing persons? Because yesterday, I believe the Philippine National Police reported at least 13 deaths, or have this been validated by the NDRRMC?
The validation is ongoing, that's why we have not actually published any figure similar to that amount that was marked by our counterpart in the Philippine National Police. As of yesterday, the only validated details that we have is the report coming from Camarines Norte Disaster Management Office, wherein they identified the 1 dead, 1 injured, and 4 missing. But we are expecting that before this morning's briefing with the cabinet at the NDRRMC, we will be having these details reporting.
Alright, so I assume also the number of people missing is also not yet verified, but will be included in your briefing later?
Yes, that is correct.
Zikeya, do we know how many households are still without power at this point?
Power outages has been experienced in a lot of locations. In those areas that has been affected, we have been 85 municipalities in Regions 2, Calabarzon 5, and Region 8 that are experiencing power outages as of yesterday. Here in Manila, their inundation has been almost complete because out of the communities here had their powers stored, but after our local power utilities, they are already in the middle of the restoration post in Regions Calabarzon here in Metro Manila. In Central Luzon, the restoration operation in Region 5 is yet to resume because we have been suspended that in view of Ulysses.
Alright, now there were a number of impassable roads yesterday because of flooding or falling posts and uprooted trees. Do we know, Zikeya, if that things are already cleared?
We have received information for the 76 road sections and 30 bridges have been declared impossible, not possible, because of these Ulysses. But our clearing operation is still ongoing. Here in Manila, there are no more road impediments, and because the DPWH and MMDA already alerted of all of it. Also, in Region 1, all the landslide are already cleared on the roads. So far, the clearing operation is still ongoing in a lot of communities, and the communities that are affected by the flood is as high as a house. That is the thing that is not possible to go to.
Alright, now when it comes to communication, I know the signal was very spotty yesterday, but do we know about the damage to communication power?
So far here in Metro Manila, we do not have such intense event in our communications lines. We are still able to connect, or we are still able to make mobile calls. Calls. We're still able to use our internet access, but sometimes we have problems. In locations in Regions 5, communication lines are still problematic. But the restoration of this service will resume. Once the weather has been cool, in other locations in Calabarzon, in Central Luzon, in Region 2, there are still problems in their communication, but we are still in contact.
Alright, now, yesterday with all the events, the memories of Ondoy literally came flooding back. Would you say that Ulysses is more destructive based on your initial assessment?
So far, Miss Rheanne, it is true that there had been some comparisons between Ondoy and Ulysses. But as far as my considered opinion, the death from Ondoy was 700 people. The death also for Ulysses is just less than 100. And we're hoping that it won't reach the particular count. A lot of communities have been affected here in Metro Manila, but unlike Ondoy, wherein a larger portion of Metro Manila has been inundated. What happened here is the low-lying area in Metro Manila, specifically in Marikina and Pasig. These are the only ones that had experienced severe flooding. Not like the Ondoy experience, there are some differences significance here, but the Ondoy was more damaging aside to the Typhoon Ulysses.
Okay, one last question, Zikea. Speaking of differences, would you say the government and LGU response was better for Ulysses compared to Ondoy?
Yes, because during the time in the Ondoy experience, one of the notable points, there was even the rescue teams, even the family of the rescue teams. The local government were all inundated and they were not able to provide services or rescue services immediately. But what we've seen here in Typhoon Ulysses, the governments are already on the scene. The deployments of the rescue team were done earlier, as well as the repositioning and the response of the local government was already, as I can judge, and the continuing operations and all the equipments that has been deployed were very different compared to the Typhoon Ondoy.
Okay, howsoever, they are more prepared. Alright, Zikea, just quickly, I want to go back to the figures you mentioned earlier. You said that the death so far for Ulysses is under 100 people. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. And we are hoping that there will not be that kind of account, but so far, here at the National, our count has exceeded 20 people. We're only reporting as of now 1 dead, 1 injured, and 4 missing person. The complete police report that is sent to us. With the supporting validation document, we are adjusting our counts.
Okay, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it. And the RRMC spokesperson, Mr. Zikeya Omaya. Let us now go to Legazpi, Albay, where our senior correspondent James Abarca is standing by. James, give us a sense of the situation in your area.
Typhoon Ulysses is making a bad situation here in Albay, even worse all day, and I mean from early this morning up to this hour as we speak. Ulysses intermittently lashing the province with forceful winds and heavy rains, and it is just getting tougher by the hour as we get into the night. And as Ulysses are expected to make landfall hours from now while we are here in Legazpi City. The focus of course is on the situation in other areas like Ginobatan, Draga, and Tobacco City, where Super Typhoon Rolly recently left a trail of death and massive destruction. So far, reports are trickling in at the Albay Disaster Office. More than 38,000 people have led their homes, hopefully to safer grounds now this data. However, it's only from 11 of the 18 local government units here in Albay, no reports yet from the other 7 LGUs. Now, Albay Disaster Chief Cedric saying that there are reports of heavy lahar flow all still in the town of Ginobatan, as well as heavy flooding in the towns of Langi and Lebon. Rheanne.
James, what about the situation in Legazpi? Specifically, what was it like there?
Here in Legazpi City, we saw a number of establishments boarded up. Business and offices were closed with the city of standstill as residents are urged to stay off streets. Now, several families are now staying in these designated makeshift shelters, mostly in public schools and barangay halls. Power is out in most of the city and as well as in Albay, but the good thing though, telco lines are still up here in Legazpi, although throughout the day. Also, we are getting a lot of phone alerts going off a number of times, warning a up to 7-foot storm surge that could slam into Albay coast towns, including here the Pat City of Legazpi. Rheanne.
Keep safe, James, and thank you, James Abarca, there reporting Legazpi, Albay. This is part of Barangay Poblacion, a community beside the Angat River in Bustos, Bulacan, that has turned into a wasteland. Debris everywhere, mostly broken pieces of wood and GI sheets from destroyed houses. Heavy rains from Typhoon Ulysses caused the river to swell and submerge nearby areas. Nikita Fernandez has survived typhoons for 5 decades, but this time, she finds herself homeless in the aftermath of the typhoon.
For me, I will leave the province and go back to my hometown in Davao with my whole family.
She and her family lack sleep. Worst thing is, they don't know where to spend the succeeding nights. They're doing their best to let dry under the sun what's left of their belongings. Clothes, beddings, school modules, and appliances. They're unsure which will still function. Harry Padar searches for Jordan, his pet dog for 8 years. Harry says he let the dog loose at the height of Ulysses.
The time when I lose my dog, he ran very fast. I let him run so that they can run from the flood, and they won't be trapped.
But for Angel Sibog, who also lost her makeshift house, she plans to build a new one in the same place. She says she will use what's left and buy new materials as soon as she gets enough money. She's aware that the nightmare might happen again.
Then I rent, I will build a new house because I have no money to pay, and it is hard to find work in this situation. So even if only use peeps, we would still build another one than rent.
Residents are in dire need of help, especially foods, clothing, shelter, and face masks. For those who would like to donate, volunteer group One Bayanihan will be conducting relief operations in the area in the coming days. You may reach out the following contact persons flashed on your screens. Rheanne Peñaflor, On Demand Philippines, Bustos, Bulacan.